Maria, are you going to be able to, are you pay attention to any of the panel, or sorry, the participants in case we have a butter comments?
I'm going to do that.
Are you going to do that? Okay,
Yeah.
Kathy. I didn't know who I'm supposed to be going to.
I'm going to do the slides. So
You're doing slides. Okay.
holler at me if I'm in the wrong page.
Okay. We'll get it figured out eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
Okay, and we are live streaming and we are recording. So the May 7th, 2020 meeting of the Yarmouth Conservation Commission is about to convene as a precautionary measure to reduce the spread of coronavirus. All town buildings are closed to the public. Therefore, this meeting will be held by remote participation. My name is Kathy Williams and I'll be your moderator this evening. I'll now turn it over to the chair to start the meeting.
Thank you, Kathy. Welcome everybody. Again, this is the Yarmouth Conservation Commission meeting for Thursday, May 7th, 2020. I will begin by having Dawn Marie call the roll. I'm sorry, Kathy, please call the roll.
Oh,
I can handle it. Hoops.
Present.
Durkin.
Here, present.
Mr. Huggins.
Present.
Mulhern.
Present.
Lawrence.
Present.
Bishop.
Present.
Bernstein.
Present.
Everyone is here. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll start off with the first order of business, which is
excuse me, Ed, would you like
Yes.
me to read the script with regard to how the meetings are
I'm
run?
sorry.
That's
Yes,
okay.
go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 23rd order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Yarmouth Conservation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access and participate in the proceedings as provided for in the order. Persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by watching via this virtual meeting or the live feed on the Town of Yarmouth YouTube channel. You may also listen to the meeting by dialing into the number provided on the notice of meeting. We will also post a recording of this meeting on the Town of Yarmouth website as soon as we are able. Please be patient as we work to overcome any technological challenges with the virtual meeting. To reduce confusion during the meeting, all participants of the virtual meeting are muted by the moderator. As participants are called upon to speak, they will be unmuted. Applicants can use the raise hand button or press *9 on their phone to identify themselves to the chair. The meeting host will then unmute applicants when they are called upon to speak. During the portion of the hearing designated for public comment, the chair or moderator will ask who in the audience has any comments or questions. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be able to make comments using the raise hand button within the virtual meeting. If you are dialing into the phone number provided, you can press *9 on your phone to indicate that you would like to comment. Please wait for the chairman to recognize you before speaking. As an alternative to making comments via the online audio or phone, you may also submit comments to the moderator via the virtual meeting chat function. To do this, click on the chat icon and type your message. When prompted, the moderator will read comments and questions into the record. Members of the public who wish to provide comments are asked to identify themselves by first and last name and affiliation for the public record and then provide their comment. If you wish to speak during a hearing, please consider the following guidelines. Do not use speakerphone, do not use Bluetooth devices, mute all background noises, and clearly state your name each and every time prior to speaking. Prior to concluding opportunities for discussion, comment, or question, the chair will ask, "At this time, I did not hear any requests for additional comment. If you wish to speak, please indicate now, and I will ask this final time if there is anyone who wishes to speak on the matter at hand." All votes must be roll call votes. After a motion is made and there is a second, the chair will ask the moderator to take the roll call vote. The moderator, in this case, Dawn Marie, is going to take on those duties, will report the roll call vote. All motions, decisions, documents, and letters will be verbally read into the record. If it appears the meeting cannot or should not proceed, then the moderator will recommend that the chair request to continue the hearing to a later date and time and/or until public meetings can resume normally. I will now hand the meeting back over to the chair.
All right, thank you, Kathy. So we'll get right into the first order of business, which is a request for determination of applicability. Janet Gilmore, 80 Mayflower Terrace, South Yarmouth. It's the replacement of an existing fire damaged single-family dwelling partially within the buffer zone to a wetland resource area and land subject to coastal storm flowage.
I believe that
Who do
is
we,
Bob Perry, and I'll
It's Bob.
unmute him.
okay,
Are you there, Bob? Let me see.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Thank you. Again, thank you for putting all this together for these applicants. This one, I am the representative for Janet Gilmore, who's working with David Dovell, a local builder, to get the burned home reconstructed. We filed a request for determination of State Wetland Act. And
Bob, you keep,
Dave.
are you on Bluetooth by any chance, or?
no, but I can go, maybe I can get off of my speakerphone. I mean, I'm on my iPhone, just using Zoom. How's it sounding?
You keep fading in and out.
Okay, I'm right near my router. Am I still fading in and out, or is it
No,
getting?
you're doing fine now.
Okay, I'll be brief. The site, if you've been there, has a collection of boats and some things down by the wetland boundary by the pond, but the house is quite close to the street. It's at the 60 to 100 foot from the wetland, and the construction would be strictly demolition, removal to the street, and a typical home reconstruction using concrete foundation exactly in the footprint of the existing home, staged from the street side. And a work limit, although I know you don't always condition RDAs, there's a proposal for a silt fence, of course, that would be deployed on the downhill side. We don't see any adverse impact that would result. We submitted the plan with the RDA with some details, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Okay, thank you, Bob. I will mention before we get into any further discussion that Kelly had also mentioned that there were some items that are inside the 35 foot that she would like to see removed, and I would have to agree with her. So just can you relay that as well then, Bob?
Yes, yeah, I will do. My site visit prompted a discussion I had with the builder about explaining to the owner that there's a lot of stuff down that buffer zone. And I'm sure that was relayed to her. If not, I believe David has done that, and I will see to it that she's aware of that. And after that, I think, you'll know where this is. It's right in plain view. So everybody should do the right thing.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Bob. All right, commissioners, anybody have any questions?
No, I think you covered it with the storage of the stuff within the 35-foot buffer.
Okay, anybody else? No, nobody else?
Nope.
Who said yeah?
Mr. Chairman, I have certainly no fundamental issues with this application, and I'm glad you mentioned the removal of the debris. But we should also caution the applicant that and they're probably aware that their existing dock is over the property line, and if that comes before us in the future, it will have to be dealt with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll definitely have to take care of that. Thank you, Rick. Bob, did you have other comments there? Or?
Well, I think that with the construction controlled and handled from the street, and under the circumstances with the burn damage, that it would be very helpful to have this approved. I will also mention the dock to the applicant. To my knowledge, it hasn't been challenged. I haven't researched for a license, but it does go across the lot line. I'm looking at that now, and I don't know that it is with or without the permission of the adjoining landowner, but we'll have to find out.
Yeah, at some point we'll have to research that. Any further discussion among the commission? Anybody in the audience who has any comments on this one?
Someone does have their hand raised. They're just identified as M, so they would need to identify themselves. Oh, they just put their hand down.
Okay, so no further. That's the last chance for abutters, commissioners.
Oh, M has written. I'm not sure whether they understand the raise hand because it went up and it went back down again like 3 times. So
Down right now?
it's down right now, but it's up right. Nope, down, up.
Okay.
Literally, it's been up and down. So do you want me to just unmute them to see if they wish to speak?
Go ahead and we'll see. We'll ask real quick. You there, M?
Hello? Hello?
Hi, David.
Oh, hi. Yes, this is David Dovell, the agent and builder for Janet Gilmore. And
Okay. Did you have any comments on this or?
Janet herself is in intensive care at the hospital. So she is elderly and she's looking forward to getting it rebuilt. They will move the items, within that buffer zone. It's just, believe that they're all, just overwhelmed. But they will get that done. And I guess
Okay.
apparently the dock, has been there for years. And, there's, the adjoining people have, I guess in the past 10 years, just moved there. So I believe that's been there for many years. And we do, like Bob Perry had said, we plan on, keeping in the exact same footprint and, with the basically the same floor plan.
Okay, all right. And the thing, with the, we understand there's other pressures on that too. So, but certainly by the time the building is complete again, we would hope to see that the items are moved out of the 35 foot. That's all we're looking for, I think.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll make sure.
All right. Any further discussion? Any other butter comments, concerns?
No one has their hands up.
Okay, we're all good? Okay. All right, then would somebody would like to make a motion? We'll need a -2 for flood zone and -3 for a buffer. Would somebody like to make that motion?
So moved, Tom Durkin.
All right, Tom moved it, and is there a second?
Second, Ellie Lawrence.
All right, please call the roll.
Okay. Hoops,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Bishop, Rick Bishop,
Myself muted. Aye.
Mr. Bernstein,
Aye.
and Tom Durkin.
Aye.
Unanimous.
All right. Thank you, Dawn Marie.
You're very kind. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bob.
Good
All right,
night.
Good night. Moving on to the next order of business, another request for determination of applicability for Aunt Edith's Neighborhood Association, Aunt Edith's Road, South Yarmouth, replacement in kind of 10 12-inch pilings associated with a licensed pier in Bass River. And who is?
I believe it's Dan Ojala from Down
Dan?
Creek. Yeah, let me just unmute him.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan Ojala from Downkeep Engineering. This is the Aunt Edith Road Dock Association. This is a kind of a little community pier for a very small community of I believe it's 7 homes that are on Aunt Edith's Road off Bass River down on the south end of Bass River. And for many years, well, back in the 30s, there was a pier there. There's a house built around turn of the century, and they had a pier licensed in 1929. And they replaced it sometime after that with a little bit bigger pier that's very similar to what you see here now. In 1988, the association hired Downkeep Engineering to go out there and get a proper license for what is there. So we went out and located everything that was there at that time, and did secure through your board and the Army Corps a license that's number 2256. They desire at this point, the pilings are getting tired and are in need of replacement so that there's not a failure out there. And so the request was made simply to replace those pilings, similar to, or kind of an in-kind replacement for what's there now. Kelly did have a few comments which she had looked at. We're looking at getting a certificate of compliance on the old order and close it out. I'm trying to determine if we actually did send that or not, but I guess the one thing we noticed that the length towards the north, which incidentally is next to Gatto, which was recently in front of you, is the same, but to the south, again, there's a few different boats in this community. It looks like somebody extended that float to the south a bit, so it doesn't interfere with the channel, but it is a little bit longer to the south. And so you can see in the photo that last boat that's on there, probably from his windshield on, is an extension that was done without proper permits. So it would be at the mercy of the board in terms of what you'd like us to do with that. We could certainly request to have what's there now. I think a suggestion was made, perhaps go back to the existing licensed and then you'd allow the replacement. Either, whatever the pleasure of the commission is, we'll adhere to it. But they would love to get those, the majority of the pilings replaced at least now so that they're secure for the boating season. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Dan. It's like if everybody's reading the agent report as well, it's like Kelly has suggested that the RDA that they revise the RDA to replace the pilings and floats to match the permitted plan. That they can basically bring the compliance issues with the floats into full compliance then by revising this RDA. And so I think that's what I would suggest that that's what we do. But I'll turn it over to commissioners if you have any questions.
I would like
Tom?
thank you. I would like to suggest that we continue this to allow the applicant to respond to the fact that this series of floats, both north and south, are not in accordance with what has been permitted in the past. As you look at this, it looks like a docking situation for your United States naval warship. I don't think it's appropriate.
I would agree with that, Tom. We're waiting for the John F. Kennedy to sidle one up to the pier there, I guess, right?
Well, I mean, don't forget though that this is a community pier, and your regulations do strongly suggest that everyone share. And here is an example of people sharing. So, we certainly don't want to be punitive when people are doing the right thing rather than everybody getting their own pier. And
well, I think the right thing they should do is to conform to the regulations and the permits.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, believe me, it's almost identical to what is approved. I mean, you can see, it's like the house that Jack built there, what's approved. What they have in the ground matches the length identically on the east, identically on the seaward side off the end of the pier. The only thing that's off a bit is that extension to the left probably goes 16 to 20 feet further near the nose of that larger boat. Other than that, it's the same, so it won't look markedly different when it comes back, and visually it'll look, the length is similar. It's just the extension of that end on the south end. But yeah, but there's a lot of boats and a lot of homeowners, 7 of them, I think, that enjoy the and so to try and get 7 boats in the river, it's a trick to do.
Yeah,
Well, if I remember correctly, the guy who has that extra float there also has a mooring in the middle of the river that he can use instead of just sitting on the dock. So if it was extended so he could sit on the dock, he has 2 places and one's only being utilized at this time. So I don't know, why did he extend it?
Yeah, I don't think that, I mean, we're talking about 2 different items here, but it's essentially the community pier, the way it was originally licensed was to have something, not that 16 to 20 extra feet. It was supposed to have less than that. So I think that's what you need to go back to. And we need to bring that into compliance.
All right.
And, you know, I mean, that's,
So,
we appreciate the fact that they're using it as a community dock, but, you know, at the same time, you've got to approach I think that's a significant departure from what was permitted. So.
Mhm.
fair enough, you know, and it's, I'm sure it was just as you know, the floats get damaged over the years and they bring in a little bit different size. And like I said, it's a little bit of the house that Jack built, but to fix it, not bad. Okay, so let's continue it. I'll shorten that length up and then we'll propose, what was there before. That way we can get the pilings replaced and get on with it. And if the gentleman has a mooring, that's a great solution, just have a little rowboat there and he can zip out to the mooring. So that extra 20 feet hopefully is not a big deal for them.
Okay, Dan, can you do the 21st?
Yeah, no problem. We'll get it revised.
I think Rick has his hand up.
I do. Rick Bishop, Dan, and just I'd weigh in that I would be comfortable if the project came in matching the dimensions of the permit. But we haven't talked about, I don't believe, is that what type of material you're using for the pilings. And you've heard this from me before. I don't think I speak alone here that there's a real concern about conceptually using green heart for pilings. And I'd be very interested to hear what you guys have in mind.
Sure. I think that the ones that are there are southern yellow pine pressure treated. So I think we could stick with that. But I'll certainly get back to you and make a note on the plan, what their pleasure is on that.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else from the commission?
Nope.
All right, do we have anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this project?
No one has their hand raised.
All right, if that's the case, then may I have a motion to continue this hearing until May 21st, 2020?
So moved, Ellie Lawrence.
Ellie moved it. Is there a second?
Second.
Who seconded?
Paul.
Paul? Okay, Paul seconded. All right, Dawn Marie, could you call the roll, please?
I can. Mr. Hoops,
Aye.
Mr. Durkin,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Bishop,
Aye.
Bernstein.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous.
Okay,
Madam Moderator,
Yes.
somehow my video has gone away on my Zoom meeting. So I think I'm going to reload. So I'm going to disappear for a minute.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to take one brief moment while we're letting Rick try and reboot here, just to explain everything to the commission. That we have the next 6 notices of intent are actually going to be continued, and so what I'm going to do is ask for one motion that continues them all. And I'll call them out individually, but just have one motion to continue all to May 21st. They're being, well, I'll explain when we get back in, but when Rick gets back on, if he gets back on. But
The next slide, Dawn Marie.
okay, is Rick is back now? Looks like it.
All good.
He is
Okay.
back.
All right, so with that, the next order of business is on to the notices of intent. We have 6 notices of intent that are going to be continued for various reasons, some of which we're continuing with the applicant's permission. Others are being continued because they're waiting for natural heritage review. And some are being continued because of applicant requests. So with that, if we get one motion to move all of these, the first one I'm going to read because it doesn't have an SC3 number, but Do I have a motion to move Blue Water LTD Partnership and Edge of the Sea Inc. 291 and 301 South Shore Drive, South Yarmouth, for SE 383227 Green Harbor Village LTD Partnership 182 Baxter Ave, for SE 83-2230 Red Jacket Beach Limited Partnership 28 South Shore Drive, SE 83-2231 Riviera Beach Limited Partnership for 327 South Shore Drive, SE 83-2228 William McDermott 5 Salt Meadow Road, West Yarmouth, and SE 83-2229 Robert J. and Rita M. Davis 177 River Street. And again, these are all being continued to May 21st. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Ellie Lawrence.
Ellie moved it. Is there a second?
Second, Tom Durkin.
Tom Durkin seconded. Dawn Marie, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Hoop,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Mr. Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Bishop,
Aye.
and Bernstein.
Aye.
And unanimous.
All right, thank you. Unanimous motion on that. The next order of business is another notice of intent for SE 83-2213 James and Tammy Sabin for 66 Nottingham Drive, Yarmouth Port. This is construction of landscaping features, including stone retaining walls, stone patios, fire pit, spa, and associated plantings within the buffer zone to a coastal bank and salt marsh. And
We have a Phil, which might be Phil Cheney, who's the landscaper, and then Tammy Sabin is also on. I can mute both of them, unmute both of them if you'd
okay,
like.
unmute, yeah, if you would please. And I think Phil is the representative, right? Phil, are you there?
There you go.
Hello,
Phil Cheney?
Bill should be with you. This is Jim Saban. I'm with Tammy Saban.
Okay, Jim.
Phil should be unmuted as well.
So while we're waiting for Phil to come up, that the narrative is not quite accurate. So we're not
Okay.
doing the,
Oh, is this Jim?
yes.
Excuse me, someone's raised their hand and maybe that's Phil.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Have me here?
Okay.
Is that you, Phil?
This is Phil Cheney, yes.
Okay, thank you
Sorry.
so much. I will mute the other Phil.
There we go. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Phil Cheney, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
All right, before you
I
get
can-
involved with this, there is a question. Jim Saban is also present and is saying there's an issue with the description.
Well, just that we're not doing a fire pit in the, with the plan. So in your narrative, it says stone walls, fire pit, spa. There is
Okay,
no
so
fire.
there is no fire pit.
No, that was the original plan, but when we revised it, we took that out.
Okay, all right, that's okay. That's noted then.
And I'll let Phil talk from now on.
All right, thank you. Phil, you want to go ahead and explain the project, please?
Sure. If you can see the resource areas that have been defined by Down Cape Engineering on the existing condition plans. You're looking there now. We have an existing bordering vegetative wetland, and we have what's been determined through the agent's investigation to be the end of a coastal bank that peters out behind the house now. So we're proposing, if you'll pull up the landscape plan, please. Thank you. We're proposing a 2-level patio, one right off the back of the house, which would be for dining at the base of the stairs of the existing deck. Then there's a retaining wall a little bit to the east with some steps leading down to a small patio to support a portable, put in place swim spa, which would be settled down on that area. So you're looking at a bi-level hardscape area added. We're staying outside of the 50 foot from the BVW. And while we're working within 35 feet of the coastal bank, our contention is it's not really functioning much like a coastal bank. And I'll explain some more in a minute. As far as mitigation for the work being done, we're proposing to completely vegetate the first 35 feet from the BVW, which you can see in the green on your plan. There's a mixed planting, as you see in the plant schedule, of native shrubs and some grasses that would fill in that space. The balance of the area running up to the new patio down below would like to just maintain as a meadow with just simply annual mowing. And so that would be basically converting the entire back portion of the property into a more natural state. There are a few ornamental plantings along with the hardscape that you see, but that pretty much encompasses the plan. The entire area now is sort of overgrown lawn. Thank you. You can see there the different angles. And in particular on this third picture, perhaps even if you zoom in a little bit, to talk about the top of Coastal Bank. The top of the Coastal Bank goes right through the center of that table with the Adirondack chairs. So you can kind of see there where we're having trouble considering that a functioning coastal bank.
Okay. Domri, if you could you go back to the mitigation planting plan? So you the 35 to 50 is that's where that table was sitting. Is that right, Bill?
No, if you look on there, can you see where it says top of Coastal Bank? Yes, just right there we go.
Right. Okay.
That table is sitting right about where your arrow is now, where the cursor is.
Okay. And then if you would go back to go forward one to the photos, then Dawn Marie, please. Okay. So where that table is, that's the coastal bank. Is that right?
Yes, that's the top of the Coastal Bank. I was just out there this afternoon, and it measures right to the center of the table.
Okay, and that's the area that you're requesting to go to a meadow. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. There in the mitigation planting.
Right. The picture that's on the page, and right now that lawn right there is what we're looking to convert into patio for the upper level. And then if you can see in the background of the picture where there's like a wood pile, that's the vicinity of where the swim spa patio would be.
Okay, and that's just outside the 50, is that right?
Yes, that's well outside the 50 to the BVW, and it's beyond the extent of the coastal bank.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna.
And so that lawn area in the floor. Okay.
Well, I'm sorry. Actually, one other question, Phil. With mitigation or with the mitigation calculations, how much hardscape are you adding?
Okay. I've got that information here somewhere. I think that shows. I think I have those numbers on the plan there.
What's in that box up at the top?
Yeah, I have the 2417 square feet of mitigation. And I think if you scroll down, I'm hoping that's on the plan there. Okay. I think it may actually be in the narrative, so I'm quickly pulling that up from my own standpoint.
Well, I want to think you said 578 square feet or something like that.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I'm looking at 590 square feet, 598 square feet of stone patio. This is in the narrative in there.
And what about did you include the swim spa as well?
Yes, actually, in addition, that's the patio that's within the 0 to 50 to that coastal bank is the 598. The area of the swim spa and the balance of the patio that's outside of that zone is 493 square feet. Okay.
Okay, so you're looking at roughly 1,000, roughly 1,100 square
Mhm.
feet of hardscape, right?
Correct. Correct.
And you
Yep.
are doing 2,400 square feet of mitigation.
I believe, yeah, I get the 2,400 square feet, yes.
Okay, all right. That's all I was checking. I
Sure. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. And that's the shrub planted area. Additionally, as you see on the plan, that's 1,930 square feet of meadow conversion.
Okay, and what was that again? It was going to be just a regular meadow mix, New England meadow mix?
It's existing grasses at this point, and the intention would be to just to abandon it with just an annual mowing.
Okay. All right. Other commissioners, any questions, comments?
Yes.
Who's saying
Chairman
yes?
Hoops, it's
Oh,
Rick
Rick,
Bishop.
go ahead, Rick.
I looked very closely at your plan and as out at the site, and I noticed that there's a very mature hardwood tree pretty much in the center of the backyard, and I don't see it indicated on your plan. I was curious to hear what your plan is for that.
Yes,
That's
it's a
big.
magic levitating tree. But yes, it's not going anywhere. It's just not shown on the plan. It kind of obscures too much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we love that tree.
Okay, anybody else?
I
Go ahead.
I was out on the site too, and I did notice that the runoff from the street is going alongside the driveway and has made quite a bit of a rut going down into the wetlands. And I wanted to know if they had any plan to address that so that the street runoff doesn't go right into the wetlands that's below them.
Phil?
Jim,
Do
is
you-
that something you've
Can I speak?
been working on?
Yes,
Yeah.
so the runoff that you probably saw, if you noticed up just past the house, they're building a new house up on the hill. And that torrential downpours that we had did a huge washout of that site down into our driveway and into the yard. We've never had a problem up until that time. But what we do plan on doing is putting some, part of what we have to do is put some dry wells in, and to address that as well. We too are concerned about any runoff going into the marsh. But that particularly what you saw was a result of that recent big storm. And they are now in the process of landscaping the new construction. So hopefully that will mitigate it as well.
They had to come power wash.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Questions? Nobody else?
No one has their hand raised.
Who does?
No one.
No one. All right. So the other issue, I'm looking through Kelly's notes too. Apparently there was a. Let's see, where is it again here? So I guess there is still another outstanding, or there was an open order that needs to be closed out.
Yes.
So-
So,
I'll
Phil,
speak to that if I can.
yeah, go ahead, Phil.
Okay, yes. That order goes back to the original construction, the original owners back in '97, and we're aware of it, and we've been trying to get that rectified through them. The mitigation, one of the reasons the mitigation numbers we have are so large is we're actually trying to restore back to what that order calls for with a portion of that mitigation as well. And one of the things that was not met on that was dry wells for the downspouts in the house. And we have a note on the plan to include those at this time. So our hope is to try to just settle all that ancient, that long predates the Sabins ownership, get that all wrapped up into one project that we can satisfy both.
Okay, so Phil, is the 35-foot that was supposed to have gone in with the original order, is that, where is that going? Or is that 35-foot that you're proposing now, the 35-foot that was originally there? And if that's
That
the
was,
case, then
that was, Mhm.
Go
Yep,
ahead.
that was supposed to originally be there, yes. It wasn't quite as extensive then. Don't really know when some of that additional clearing perhaps took place, but it's a much larger area now that the Sabins inherited. And as you can see, it's a substantial area that we're bringing back. The original order called for it to be vegetated from the 35 feet from the coastal bank at that time, at that definition. So what we're doing now is trying to remedy that by totally replanting that area and then additionally converting the rest to meadow.
So it was 35 feet originally. The 35-foot, that how much area do you know how much area was actually supposed to be done under the original order, or that old order?
Well, my understanding is in the original order there was to be simply, no disturbance beyond the 30-foot buffer.
Okay.
And they're 35-foot buffer, so therefore that would have been all undisturbed natural vegetation. And somewhere since '97, and before the Sabins ownership, portions of that were cleared up to where you see now all that green area. So it's a pretty substantial effort just to bring that back into, to meet that order, even though the original order didn't require any planting. It was just simply to leave that undisturbed.
Okay. And so then that, so again, going back to that 35 to 50 foot where you're maintaining where you're creating or maintaining the meadow, that's all you're planning on doing, is just leaving it uncut, basically, or cutting, mowing once a year.
Correct.
So that is the new mitigation for something, let me get this straight. So the old COC was supposed to be up to the 35-foot line, and you're going to bring it back to that, and the new mitigation for the hardscape would be the field that you're only going to mow once. Is that correct? Am I getting that right?
Yes, that summarizes it correctly, I believe.
All right, so then it's not, it's not really
Mitigation.
That's not really mitigation then. I mean, it was supposed to be left unmowed. That 35 under the original order was supposed to have been left unmowed or undisturbed.
Right.
But it was disturbed, not by the Sabins, but it was disturbed at some point.
Right.
And so now you're saying you're going to go ahead and replant that area. And I'm not saying that that's not a bad idea. I applaud you for doing that. But then we're only saying for 1,100 square feet of hardscape, we're essentially allowing you to do nothing other than allow a grassy area to grow back. And that's more along the lines of how much area? You said 1,900 square feet for that?
Yeah, I believe it's 1930.
So we're not quite getting even a 2-to-1. We're not even getting a 2-to-1 ratio for that. And I understand this board doesn't have a set ratio for those sorts of those types of plantings, but it doesn't seem to me as though, I mean, again, I it's far better to leave it unmowed than to develop it some other way. But I would think that you should be able to come back with a little bit more, maybe yes, a little bit more plantings that shows, gives a little bit more, a little bit more vegetative height diversity, maybe a little bit more biodiversity and general plantings. And it doesn't have to be all throughout that 1,900 square feet or throughout that meadow area. I think the meadow area in the center is nice, but we could probably get a little bit more mitigation coming out of the sides and borders of that area. At least that's my opinion. I don't know what the rest of the board feels. I'll let them chime in on that.
Yeah, and to respond quickly there, my thought was that we're creating a nice mix of habitat there, right near the salt marsh, some good open meadow. We're introducing a large number of woody shrubs with great habitat value in the winterberry and Virginia rose, some additional tall grasses in there, which will also migrate into that meadow area and not be bothered by the mowing. So I thought rather than cluttering the meadow area or just turning it into all one uniform shrub area, being able to mow portions of it and maintain it as two portions of the habitat, I thought would be a better environmental habitat value there. Because otherwise it would be turned into a homogeneous shrub mass with woody plants and trees if it was not able to keep it mowed.
No, I agree with what you're saying, Bill. I think your thoughts are 100% right. I mean, I think I agree with that, but I just think the planting that you're doing, that large planting within the 35 foot is really replacing what was not supposed to have been disturbed in the first place. And so I'm saying, like I get what you're saying about letting things move in slowly and giving wildlife habitat. I think that's great. I just think we can do a little bit more. We should add a little bit more square footage to the mitigation planting and allow that to spill up into the area of the meadow. It doesn't have to come through the middle. Doesn't have to come through. It could literally be to the sides of the meadow, but it should have. We should have a little bit more planting to at least get it up to. Right now you should at least get it up to a 2-to-1 planting ratio for what was there, and versus what's proposed. And then I think you'll also need to include. You're planning on going. You said they were supposed to have downspouts and gutters to dry wells, right?
Correct.
So are you planning on putting those in now?
Yes.
Yes, those. I have the note on the plan there that would be part of this. During this construction project, that would be done.
So I'm having a little. I don't see them on the plan. I'm trying to look at them through the screen. I don't see, and I can't make those out. But
right, I included just a note at the bottom of the plan.
Okay, I'd rather see them located on the plan as well. Those locations on the plan as well.
Okay.
Other commissioners, do you have any comments on any of this? Do you agree? Am I the only one who's talking about this and you'd like me to shut up, or?
No, I agree, because what they're doing is replacing the what should have been done as mitigation, and I think they should augment a little more for the hardscape that they're putting in.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, it should be 2-to-1. Tom. Minimum.
Tom, you said 2-to-1, right?
Minimum, yes.
Okay. Paul, you have the same opinion?
Yep.
I agree.
I agree.
Where are you gonna put it?
Okay, Phil, do you have an idea for how to go about doing that then, or accomplishing that?
I think probably all I could offer is that we can get the most available in there. Whether that can come out to actually 2-to-1 or not, I mean, there's a limit. I've got 1,930 square feet currently accounted for, and I can get a little bit more than that. But I'm not sure that, again, if I plant the entire area, it's not going to be. I'm not sure it's going to be 2-to-1. Yeah.
So I think you could certainly strike a little bit more of a balance then, maybe a little less meadow, a little bit more with the biodiversity and the different types of diversity of plants then.
Yeah, I could propose that we come back with, say, working some more plantings along the fringe in terms of woody shrubs, trying to maintain a central meadow feeling that can be maintained then as a meadow.
Yeah,
So
and I think that would look good. Yeah, I think it would function well, and it would look nice.
Yeah, we can eliminate any lawn that's below, the patio areas as designated now. Currently, we're showing a little rail fence to separate that. We could just eliminate that and just have it all meadow right up to the hardscaping.
Okay.
Excuse me.
All right, I'm good with that.
Jim Saban also has his hand raised, as does, or did Dan Ojala.
All right, Mr. Saban.
So I appreciate what we're all trying to achieve here, and that's, keeping the beauty of the site. But I guess my question is, because it's my wallet, would it be easier for me to reduce the size of the patio rather than increase the numbers of expenses that we're implying by putting more vegetation in? So I think I heard the concern being the ratio of coverage. So instead of that patio being 20 feet from the house, if we made it say 16 or 18, is that also an acceptable process?
Oh yeah, I mean that would be another.
It's only so big.
Yeah, I mean I mean there's nothing saying, and there's nothing in stone, no pun intended, that you have to have a 400 square foot patio. If you propose 400, but you say, okay, well, I can do, if I go to 300 and I can maybe boost up a little bit more plantings, I still maintain a little bit more balance, and it's easier on my wallet. That's perfectly acceptable. You can achieve that 2-to-1 a variety of different ways, either by planting, everything all over, or reducing hardscape, which will reduce the amount of mitigation that's required.
So so how we picked that, and I don't know if you can see it in any of your pictures. If you can see it just where the plants are on the right side of the picture, there's a concrete, this guy who must have owned a concrete curb company or something, because there was a concrete curb around the property. And that's about 20 feet from the house. So our idea here was to replace existing lawn where we're putting, fertilizers and other toxins into the lawn that we're trying to prevent. We thought one of the things of being environmentally sensitive was to put a pervious patio down where we were no longer pouring fertilizers and other things into the lawn area. So it was our thinking that this was more environmentally correct than having an existing lawn there. We are extremely environmentally sensitive here. Somebody mentioned the tree. We want to make sure we save that. We fell in love with this site because of the backyard and the beauty of it. And, we've lived here for about 18 months, and I can tell you we don't use that area. So a meadow and keeping it as natural as we can is something that we want to try to achieve as well. But like I said, the wallets are only so big these days.
Right. No, and I think you have that's an excellent. This is another alternative to doing this as well. You can certainly strike some sort of a different kind of balance between. I mean, obviously, the less hardscape you do, the less mitigation you have to prepare. And I think in terms of a pervious patio at that distance. I understand what your thoughts are behind that, but the pervious patio at that distance from the resource, it's probably a 50-50 wash in terms of that versus fertilizers and that sort of thing. But again, that's something that you have to make the decision based on what your preferences, your economic situation, everything else. So but that's not for us to tell you how to do that.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a suggestion that we continue this with them coming back to us with a new plan and all our ideas that we've given them?
Yeah, I think we definitely have to continue. Are you guys all set, and you have a better idea of which way to go then, Phil and Mr. Saban?
Yeah, I feel comfortable with what we discussed here, that we can come up with a plan that'll be more acceptable.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Excuse me, Ed?
Yeah.
Dan Ojala has his hand raised.
All right, Dan?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in that I think Phil's idea of a meadow was a great one, and you were alluding to the fact that, you know, maybe just natural wasn't that great, but what about that New England wildflower mix? You know, when you put that in, you get the black-eyed Susans, you get these beautiful wildflowers that come up. It attracts the bees and the butterflies and hawks and everything. It's just a wonderful area. And then just mow it, you know, at the end of the season, and it comes back the next year. Really a nice habitat and something pretty to look at. It's a real win-win. So I think supplementing it with some seed, not just letting it be natural, like Phil and everyone mentioned. I think that would be really nice in the middle there to have those seeds. On Bass River, there's one that's just beautiful. I took some pictures of it. I mean, it's just marvelous habitat and all native species and really nice resource.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that, Dan. I think that would be, I mean, again, it's up to Phil and his clients as to, you know, their best use of their resources, as well as addressing the natural resource as well. So
Yeah, and
I will-
very economical compared with,
Yeah.
you know, big root balls and shrubs. It's a very economical way to go, and supplement it every once in a while with a little more seed, and it really does nicely. I'd put my vote in for that, just to put my 2 cents in. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you, Dan. All right, Phil, you all set?
I think I'm good.
Okay, any further conversation, abutters, any abutters, Kathy?
No,
No?
no one has their hand raised. We're good.
All right, then would somebody like to make a motion of, oh, Phil, can you do 2 weeks, or do you want a little bit more time?
2 weeks is fine.
Okay, and can have the plan in by, you know, middle of next, or by next week then, I guess, essentially, for review?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, so would somebody like to make a motion to continue this hearing to May 21st, 2020?
So moved. Ellie Lawrence.
Ellie's moved it. Is there a second?
Second, Tom Durkin.
Seconded by Tom. Sorry, Dawn Marie, would you call the roll, please?
I will. Mr. Hoops,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Bishop,
Aye.
Bernstein.
Aye.
Unanimous.
All right, thank you, Dawn Marie. Thank you, Kathy. Everybody, Phil, we look forward to seeing the plan next time around.
Thank
Thank you very
Gary.
much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Saban. All right, next order of business is another notice of intent. This is Christopher Haley, 190 Blue Rock Road, South Yarmouth, proposed reconfiguration of dock within Bass River. I think that's Mark Burgess, is that right?
Yes. I just
Okay,
unmuted.
is Mark there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay,
Yes.
go ahead,
Yep.
Mark.
Okay, thank you very much. For the record, Mark Burgess of Shorefront Consulting, representing Mr. Haley. So I'll try to be brief. So this project is about fixing a dock configuration that for some reason wasn't in the configuration that it was permitted or licensed. And returning it to the licensed configuration isn't necessarily the best option either. So we looked at it as to, there was a violation letter issued to Mr. Haley. Now, he had purchased the property, I think last year or the year before, and was unaware that the configuration of the dock that currently existed wasn't in compliance. And in fact, I had done some permitting on this property 10 years ago, and it was in the same configuration it is now, but we were doing landscaping and patios in the upland, and I never knew anything was wrong with it. So when it came to his attention, he hired me, and we in turn went through the services of Mr. Freeman. This was around October of last year. So we've been intently trying to move forward with this, and through various delays, and as I stated in my paperwork, some of my workload, you know, it took a while to get to this point. And by the time we realized when the design was going to happen and when we could get any kind of permitting done, we realized that there's no way we're going to get this corrected in this boating season. Kelly suggested that we go ahead and file, and there's a proposal temporary solution in the narrative, which I'll go over. So the plan can be a little confusing because I had what was permitted versus one window I had existing versus permitted and licensed, so you can see what the changes were there. But more importantly, I just have existing versus proposed. But the important aspects of the project are that for some reason the dock was built shorter. We don't know why. It was permitted back in like '88, so it probably got rebuilt and somebody decided they wanted more floats instead of dock. Again, I don't know. So we're going to convert some of the float area to dock by extending the dock 21 feet. We'll use the existing ramp and some of the existing floats. Well, actually only two. So the one extra float that's clearly visible in the aerial on the north side of the dock, that's gone. Never to return. The outer float would be shifted to the north about 10 feet. So it's an L instead of a T. And the reason for that is to increase separation from the Blue Rock existing little marina there, so that we get 75 feet of setback from them. The water depth is adequate as is, and the existing dock, I'm sorry, the proposed dock and floats don't extend any further beyond mean high water than what was previously approved. It's still 80 feet. It's may be confusing. It's a different 80 feet because the old license plans had mean high water in a slightly different location than what we come up with. But in any event, you can tell from the license extension of the dock, we're not going any further out into the water than it was ever approved before. And we can still get the adequate water depth. What we're proposing is that, well, we did a shellfish survey, and moving forward, I think I'm going to put this shellfish grid just in the shellfish report. I'm going to leave it off the plan. I thought it was advantageous to have it on the plan so you could see where everything is, but
And no, don't do that.
yeah, I won't do that anymore.
Thank you.
Yeah. So basically we're just going to extend the dock 21 feet, eliminate some of the floats that are associated with that, and tighten everything up so we're within the 200 square feet. We've got the depth, and we're increasing the setback to the south. What we're proposing in an effort to show you transparency and that the applicant is making fair progress as much as possible in correcting this situation, what we'd like, and also in lieu of the current permitting situations, we haven't gone to waterways yet. We filed it like over a month ago, but they're not holding any meetings. So this meeting will have to be continued. We can do to a date certain if we have any idea when Carl's going to pick up meeting, but we should push it, a month or more just to be sure. So in the interim, I apologize myself for not getting to this as soon as I could. Well, I got to it as soon as I could. I'm apologizing that it took so long that there was no way to permit this in time to do the work this season. Having said that, the property owner uses the property as a rental, and the dock is part of that, so people can have it for boats. So what we proposed was a temporary measure for this season only to put the floats and the ramp and floats back in the way they were without the definitely extra float on the north. And then what you're down to there is basically the next step of the project would be simply to convert these extra floats to the dock, and then shift it next season. I think this shows a good faith effort by the applicant that he's willing to correct the situation. You have it before you exactly how we want to correct that situation. But we're just asking to be able to install it in the temporary configuration for this season. And then as soon as we're beyond the local permitting and everything else, we'll get right back at it in the fall. And I would fully expect that the work can be completed and reconfigured well in advance of the next boating season. And with that, I'll attempt to answer questions.
Okay, Mark, thank you. So you're getting rid of what it says, that existing float, that pink, and the one on the pink moving off to the left that says to be removed. You're not going to put that in, right?
Correct. That's
Okay.
the extra little piece that's between the outer float and the shoreline.
Okay.
That would not go back in ever.
Okay. And when do you think, if I know it's kind of hard because we don't know exactly when things are going back to normal with waterways. So what are you looking to do? Like 2 months or 1 month?
Well, we can always do it for a month. And then, I mean, Carl was saying that he would get back to meeting around May, but we all know that they won't be obligated until could be 45 days after that. So even if it's 2 months, I'm fine with that. We did get Division Marine comments back, Division of Marine Fisheries comments back. They had no comments.
There were none, right?
Yeah, so apparently we're on the right track.
Okay.
And we do have a file number. So it's up to you. We could do a month, and then if we don't have anything in a month, we can bump it again. I'm fine with that.
Okay. And do you think ultimately then should everything go back to normal within a month? Do you think by the end of the year you'll be able to get this configured and done, or?
I think well, we still have to, we're going to have to relicense the configuration and stuff. So I
Okay.
think for this boating season, no, it's going to take too long to get through the permitting.
Right.
So if it's just a temporary measure in good faith for this boating season, and come the fall, everything will come out. And, hopefully the only way it goes back in is this way next season.
Okay. All right. That sounds good to me. Commissioners, any questions among the commission?
Yes.
Who was that?
It's Rick Bishop.
Okay,
Yep.
Rick.
Mark, just so I can understand this very clearly, I understand that you've reduced the size of the landing float for the ramp, and you've reconfigured the outer float. What's the total square foot of float that you were proposing?
It's under 200.
Overall, include both of those floats?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
it's in the narrative. Let me see if I can.
That's fine. I'm not going to question you.
Okay.
How many of the pilings will be reused?
I would imagine all of them can be reused if they're in good enough shape. I don't know the last time they've been worked on out there.
Right, but you'll need to add some pilings, given that you're extending the dock structure 21 feet. So there'll be some additional pilings, I'm guessing.
Yes, correct. And I'm guessing what your next question is.
Yes, indeed. You go ahead.
Well, okay. So this is one of those pressure treated docks. I can always ask the applicant if he wants to consider the fiberglass piles. They do make them in 8 inches, and they do make them in kind of a darker color. They come in the gray, but they also come in kind of a brown. And I don't see that docks make a fashion statement, but some people do prefer that things match.
I agree.
So I don't want to be tied to that, but I would certainly ask him. And maybe the thing to do would be, if the piles that are out on the floats could be reused, use them for the dock, and then just use fiberglass ones for the piles. Maybe that's a possible.
Thank you for communicating that. We'll be interested to see what you bring back in the fall.
Okay.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman, for Mark.
Go ahead, Ellie.
What was the permitted length on this dock originally? Because you say this was added on, but what was the permitted length? Was it all the way out to the 80 feet, or was it just short? Because you mentioned that it was built shorter than it was permitted, and I'm just wondering what the permitted length was.
The permitted length, pier, ramp, and floats, it was permitted to 80 feet beyond mean high water, as it was shown on the plan in 1988.
Okay.
So we're not going any, there's a physical difference, probably just based on sea level rise, of about 10 feet, but we're still not going out beyond 80 feet from the current mean high water.
Yeah. Okay. So they just did it with floats instead of the dock itself. So I just wanted to know.
Yeah, that's what
how
it
far
appears.
it was. Okay.
That's what it appears. So they had 380 square feet of float right now. I'm trying to find the new number. 199. There you go.
Okay,
The proposed new float is 199.
but the dock isn't any longer than the original permit. That's my concern.
Oh, let me see.
It's not going up any past the 80 feet then.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't matter whether it's 80 feet. What was the permit for? If the permit was for 50 feet and all of a sudden it's 80 feet, that's my question.
No, but that's what he said. You
Yeah.
weren't you saying that the dock was originally the actual dock was actually permitted for 88, right?
Okay, so the permitted pier, ramp, and floats were all permitted to extend no more than 80 feet from mean high water as it existed back in 1988.
Okay. So
Okay.
we're good.
But the existing dock had 2 lengthwise floats, and that was
Right.
it. There was no
Okay.
90.
So yeah, so we're good. We're
Yeah,
good then, Mark.
okay, yep,
Yeah.
that just answered my question. We're good.
Okay,
Okay. All right. Anybody else from the commission?
Nope.
No. Anybody in the audience?
No.
No. All right, Mark, June 4th, does that sound good?
let me check my phone.
I'm sorry, you cut out.
I'm
June
sorry,
4th, yes?
let me check my phone.
Okay.
It's smarter than me when it comes to schedules. So far, so good, June 4th, yes. And then, Ellie, do you have any idea when Waterways is going to start back up again?
I don't, I've asked Carl and he's just swamped with a lot of other stuff because they're understaffed. So I really don't know when they're gonna do it again.
Okay.
Well, we'll hope for June 4th and that something that they'll get it before that, but
Yeah.
if not, I mean, we'll just have to continue it. We'll have to continue it again.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
In the grand scheme of things, there should be plenty of time to get through the rest of this in time to fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
I do have one last question. Do we need anything in writing from the board that says that we're allowed this temporary installation for this season only? Or can it just be on record as part of this meeting?
Well, it's it's a record of this meeting, but we can, I can talk to Kelly about that too.
Okay.
I think you can proceed with the plan that it's all part of the record. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So if that's the case, then there's no further discussion among the commission. Do I have a motion to move this hearing to June 4th, 2020?
So moved. Bishop.
Bishop, second.
Second, Ellie.
Okay, Lawrence. Don Marie, would you call the roll, please?
Yep. Hoops,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Bishop,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
unanimous.
All right. Great. Carries unanimously. Thank you, Mark. We'll see you in a month.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to hang on here in case you have any questions about these certificates of compliance.
Okay, they'll just coming up in just a few minutes.
Yes, sir.
All right, next order of business then is a request for an amended order of conditions as continued from April 16th, 2020 for SE 83-2198 Derek Johnson, 37 Moss Road, Yarmouth. This item, they're going to be actually asking to continue this to May 21st, 2020. Am I right with that?
So moved.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I'm not, there's nobody here for this, is that right? Don Marie, do you know?
There's no one here for this that I can tell. No one has their hand raised, but my understanding was this was to be continued.
Okay, all right. Okay, so then I have a motion from Ellie. Is there a second?
Tom Durkin, second.
Tom seconded. Don Marie, would you call the roll, please?
Well, Mr. Hoops,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Bishop,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
unanimous.
All right, thank you. We will move on to the next order of business. We have many requests for certificate of compliance. And what I'm going to do again to save a little bit of time, we're going to move a bunch of them that have absolutely no, they are fully in compliance. They've been checked and certified by Kelly to be fully in compliance, as well as the engineers are doing the requesting. And so the only issue that we have is going to be with SE 83-1349 11 Prince Road. So I'll talk about that individually. But if I could have a motion to move or to issue certificates of compliance for SE 83-2132 16 Pleasant Street, SE 83-2109 12 Pleasant Street, SE 83-1337 11 Prince Road, SE 83-2108 28 at Edith Road, SE 83-1828 for 19 Sagamore Road, SE 83-807 for 329 South Shore Drive, SE 83-1377 for 329 South Shore Drive, SE 83-1470 for 329 South Shore Drive, and SE 83-1581 329 South Shore Drive. Is there a motion to issue these certificates of compliance for those SE numbers?
So moved.
Who was that?
David.
Bernstein moved it. Is there a second?
A second. Pat Mulhern.
I have a question.
Oh, okay. Tom?
May I ask Dawn Marie if she recorded SE 83 1337 and 1349?
No, we are not approving SE 83-1349 at the time.
Good.
There are issues with that one.
That's fine. I appreciate that.
Okay. So we're going for all of the ones except for SE 83-1349. And David,
Yes.
you're good with that?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Tom. David, you're good with your original motion?
Yeah, I just have a question about the other 11 Prince Road. The SE 83-1337, did you include that in this motion?
Yes, that is included.
Okay, because I'm reading Kelly's notes. It says no further cutting should be carried out without approval. That's understanding within what we're approving then.
Yeah, because that would be a violation. That would be a violation, and had it were it not. So
okay, so I'm fine.
Yeah, you're good with that.
Okay, fine.
Okay, thank you. All right, Pat, did you do a second? Did I hear?
I did.
Okay, so Mulhern seconded. All those in favor? I'm sorry, Dawn Marie. Would you call the motion? Would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Hoops.
Aye.
Durkin.
Aye.
Huggins.
Aye.
Mulhern.
Aye.
Lawrence.
Aye.
Bishop.
Aye.
Bernstein.
Aye.
Unanimous.
All right. So then our next order of business is a request for certificate of compliance for SE 83-1349 11 Prince Road, and there are issues with this one, I believe. Let's see, there's a floating platform. And Mark, is this the one that is this why Mark Burgess is here for this one?
Yep.
Okay, so hold on, just let me take a look through and just we'll make a few comments here. There is a floating platform anchored to the landward end of the dock that Kelly requested they remove before the hearing as it is damaging the marsh vegetation. That's been done. When the order was approved, the commission made the applicant remove the float from the plan as to the water depth and conditions were not compatible. Instead, an outhaul piling was approved. However, in 2010, a 16x6 float appeared in the aerials and is currently on their driveway. The property owner does not plan to return the float to the water. They are going to look at it at a lift in the future instead. So the outhaul piling was not installed.
Correct.
All right. So how does the committee, Mark, I'm going to let you, do you have any other comments on that beyond that?
No, not really. I mean, in that regard, everything's been taken care of. I sent some photos to Kelly of that extra float that was removed. It had floated up there in a storm, and they just tied it off to the dock. So that's gone. The dock meets all the other dimensional regulations of the order. And yes, the outhaul pile was never installed. And this is another project that's the result of a violation because of the ramp and float. And of course, that's been removed, and I told them never put it back. We do have a filing through Waterways right now for a boat lift at the end. But again, haven't been able to act on that. So I thought, well, let's clean up these old orders first, or while we're waiting to move forward with the notice of intent.
Okay. All right, is there a discussion among the commission? Questions? I'm not getting any, I'm not hearing anybody, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep, Rick?
It's interesting. I think we've approved, if I can recall, one boat lift in the past, and it's something that perhaps as a commission we want to have a discussion about, because they're varied, and I think their impact can be quite different from style to style. It may be something we want to take up in a later time, but just without a lot of information, it's kind of hard to understand what the impact of a boat lift will be, if any.
Yeah, well, remember, so we're not discussing or even doing any decisions based on whether a boat lift will be there or not be there.
Right. No, I get that.
This is just for the certificate of compliance. So.
Yep. I'm fine. Thank you. I just wanted to get the point out there.
Yeah, we can certainly, I think we're going to eventually have to go back and start talking a little bit more about some of our, as we're proposing our regulation changes. That would be another good discussion topic. Everybody else is good with this the way it is. We're willing to trust them that they're going to keep it in the driveway and eventually take it off someplace else and not into the river.
I will fire my client if they put that float back in the water.
I kayak there a lot, so I'll watch it.
All right, so it's all on David then.
Absolutely.
All right, would anybody like to make a motion then?
So moved, David.
Okay, David, to issue the certificate?
Yes.
All right, is there a second?
Second, Ellie.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Dawn Marie, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Hoops,
Aye.
Durkin,
Aye.
Huggins,
Aye.
Mulhern,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Bishop,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
unanimous.
Okay, we're all set with that then. We're moving to issue that certificate of compliance as well. Moving on then, we have other business. The first order under other business is discussion of violation at 82 and 86 Harbor Road. I will try and summarize this as quickly as possible based on our conversation with Kelly. Which was this: they haven't done anything. And that's pretty much it. They've pretty much ignored what we've done. There was the enforcement order was issued a while ago now, and they are not seeming to respond to that. They have not been too forthcoming with any ideas or motion to correct any of the situation there. No, I'm going to leave it at that. It's like we have. Well, I'll turn it out to the commission for their comments at this point, and let me call up Kelly's comments on that as well. Anybody have any issues or
Tom Durkin,
questions? Tom?
I feel a fine would be appropriate.
Okay, so let me grab a copy of the enforcement order too, just to show you what we did, what has been sent. And eventually I'll get there. I can't get that. Marie, do you have a copy of the enforcement order? For some reason, it's not coming up on in my mail here.
I do not have a copy of it with me here.
Let me see if I can find it on Laserfish.
Oh, that would be helpful. I don't know why my email has completely frozen up here. Ah, I got it.
Are you all set, Ed?
Yeah. Okay. So I do have it. I can't. Obviously I can't share it. But essentially, let's see. It was sent February 26th of this year, and the extent for the activity and type of activity, Kelly specifically named excavation, filling, regrading at 82 Harbor and 86 Harbor Road. That there were a cutting of at least 12 trees, including cedar, oak, and mature, which means 9-inch or better tupelos at 86 Harbor Road, and dumping of landscaping debris I think that's at the property at 82 Harbor Road. All of this was within the buffer zone to a salt marsh, BVW, and within land subject to coastal storm flowage. Work was carried out without prior approvals from the Yarmouth Conservation Commission, and has been carried out at the property owned by Yarmouth Conservation Trust without their knowledge or approval. And so, let's see, she asked that they complete an attached notice of intent to be filed with the Yarmouth Conservation Commission by March 19th, 2020 for excavation, filling, and regrading at 82 Harbor Road. And again, we have not received any notices of intent. We have not received, again, really any anything at all from the homeowner. So in terms of fines, we have the ability to fine up to $300 a day for each individual violation or infraction. I was discussing with Kelly, because I mean, in theory, that would mean that you could actually fine for each of the 12 trees daily, okay? And that would be up to $300. Now, reality is that they're not, nobody is fessing up to cutting the trees, which is an issue. Obviously, if you stand out in that property and you look at it, and you can pretty much say, well, it's up to one or maybe two houses that would benefit from this cutting. But again, it's not something that you can definitively prove. We have no eyewitnesses as to who did the work. We don't know the landscapers who did it, or if it was an individual homeowner who did it. So that would be kind of difficult. It would end up most likely in court, and we would lose big time on that one. But we could certainly, I mean, I think number one, the fact that we're discussing fines at all is not something that this board usually does. And so I think it sends a message to the violators, the alleged violators who have received the enforcement order, that we are serious and that we are taking this violation seriously. And so now the idea is, what do you want to do in terms of fine, the amount of the fine? I would suggest, again, we can do it on a daily basis, but that would require Kelly to go out literally and look and ensure that the violation still exists on a daily basis. So what I would suggest is that we would look at it more on a weekly basis, you know, and we could issue fines on a weekly basis rather than daily.
Are you saying going forth or for past?
Well, by right we have the right to go all the way back to the date of the violation. All right. Again, I would not recommend doing it that way. I would recommend we could even be, if we want to be even more magnanimous in this, we can give them a date certain. If you don't do this by this date, I'd make it a short date, but we could do it and say, it's like, if you don't comply by this date, then these series of fines are going to happen. Or we could just send fines starting right away and saying, as of today, you've got X number of dollars in fines. If you do not correct the situation as according to the enforcement order by a new date, or by the time the next week goes by, then we will issue more fines, and we'll continue to do so until you rectify the situation by complying with the enforcement order.
I have
Paul.
a question. Yeah, just to clarify, you talked about the trees, and we don't have any conclusive proof in terms of who cut the trees. It might be obvious to us, but certainly we don't know. And that, as you said, if it went to court, we would not win that situation. But are there, refresh my memory in terms, are there other violations that are directly and obviously done on the part of the homeowner? Can you tell me what they are?
So those were the excavation, filling, and regrading at 82 Harbor.
Yep.
And the dumping of landscaping debris at 82 Harbor.
Okay, and the other question I have is, if you find, and let's say you find on a weekly basis, which I'm perfectly happy to also support, and people don't pay the fine, is a lien placed on their property?
There's a warrant that they could have a warrant issued for them, though.
For their arrest, or to appear in court or something?
Ultimately, I mean, you could, I mean, the warrant is sent, and you know, I mean, if the presiding magistrate so chooses, they can issue a bench warrant, which would allow then it would essentially go into the system. And so if they get stopped for speeding, somebody would run a once on warrants on them. They could theoretically be arrested on the spot.
Well, given the fact that they've been so non-responsive, I think if the commission wanted to fine them on a weekly basis, I certainly would be in favor of that.
Okay. Tom, I saw you had your hand up.
No, I was just saying that in reference to Paul's question, I think we were out there, Paul, and they cut into that bank behind the two houses. Do you recall that?
I think so. It was
They
a while back.
devastated that bank. And that was a concern to us when we went out and saw it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Be held accountable for sure.
Well, you know, it comes back to nobody's seen them do it, and we're issuing them a fine. Is it them? And you say they're not responding. how do we, they're non-responsive. How do we
So-
say you're not responding, respond to us, or else you're going to get a fine? Maybe they're not responding because they really didn't do it.
Well, doesn't that apply just to the trees though? Isn't the other stuff on their property?
Yeah, the other.
Well, the other stuff is on their property.
It's all
yeah.
on their property. So
That's
that,
what we're
Yeah.
finding.
yeah,
Well,
and that's what we're suggesting we fine for.
Yeah.
Actually, the excavation is on their property. The dumping is on the Conservation
On the other one.
Trust, and the trees are on the Conservation Trust.
Right.
It's just the excavation in the back with the wall that crumbled down.
Yeah,
Okay, so we
that's
can go
what's
ahead with at least that,
subject to
with
a
that
fine.
one.
Yeah.
That's right, Tom, go ahead.
No, I was just addressing Ellie. It's difficult when we're not sitting side by side. But
You
what
can't
my
slap her,
comment
you know, and
was
say,
that
hey,
the
stop.
Oh,
fine-
he always slaps me, kicks me.
It does. So I have some,
vice
Better
versa.
than Rick kicking me.
So, Tom, go
Fine
ahead.
is imposed for the destruction of the bank, I believe, Ellie. Nothing else.
yeah.
That's
Well,
for the fill and the
the
grading.
cutting of the trees was just, and I was there, and it was just unbelievable. It obviously only benefits one person.
Right.
can I share something with the commissioners?
Yep, go ahead.
So I just pulled up the Zillow listing for the property, real estate listing. And there is a interior photographs that looks through the south-facing windows, and as clear as a bell, the trees that were there before they cut them down was blocking their view. It's just incredible.
That's something.
You can see
Yeah.
just so perfectly.
How that happened.
Yeah.
And then the
It was
street
very
view.
fortunate that big wind came along and knocked those trees down for them.
Yeah. It was the tornado, I think, Ed.
Yeah.
And it was very surgical too. It just took them really cleanly.
Yeah, that tornado actually had an effect, you know, what, a couple months before the tornado actually came through.
Actually, it was after.
Miraculously-
It was
yeah,
after.
miraculously, it anticipated, I guess the tree stand anticipated the wind.
And if you look at the Google Street View, it shows the property before the excavation was done behind it. This is pretty amazing what this Street View can show you.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's little doubt in anybody's mind who did it or why they did it. It's just it doesn't meet the level of certainty that you need for enforcement. So, I mean, we could push that and push it and push it, but I think it's easier to. I mean, I think it gets our point across that we are not pleased with their activity. We are not pleased with the idea that they've ignored us, and so the ticket being issued for the grading and fill on their property is something they can't deny it. I mean, they can deny it, but they will lose. So. We can go from there. Paul?
Have they formally denied the accusation that they cleared the trees and dumped the fill?
I believe from in discussion with Kelly, that was my understanding that they will not admit to anything that was going on the other property, that they did nothing as it relates to the other property.
So that is it would it bear more weight if they were fined for everything and then they had to respond about, you know, in some sort of a written fashion that they didn't do that? Could that help the matter at all in terms of further maybe litigation or whatever?
No, we can't do that. The reason we can't is because it makes it look like we're being capricious or arbitrary in our because we don't have the proof for it. So why would we do it?
I get it.
You had your hand up, Tom?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we institute a fine of $300. The notification being accompanied by a notice of intent to rectify the damage that has been done to the property, and that a response is required 1 month from the date of notification of the fine.
Would that be
Okay, so hold on. So we want it's a $300.
fine that they got 1 month to pay,
Well, they have 21 days to pay it.
21, whatever you
Yeah,
say.
they're by law, they're required, the ticket is required to be paid within 21 days.
That's what I meant to say.
Or appealed. So that's what we were just gonna put that in. We were gonna stick the 21 days in there.
Desperately.
So that comes automatically with the written. And so the ticket will be for the fill and grading at 82. And the letter will address, or the letter will state that they must file the notice of intent. All right, so if we, oh, I'm sorry. So we should actually say that they must file the notice of intent and that they will continue to be fined on a weekly basis. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
From that month onward.
Or actually, no, I think, so we should say, you want to give them until the appeal period for the ticket runs out, or do you want to say we will continue to fine you weekly until such time you filed the notice of intent? That way you can literally start doing a $300 fine, next week, then a week later, and a week later, and a week later, and it sort of compels them to.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. I would rather not threaten a continuation of fines. I would make a fine set and specific for a period of time. And then if we do not receive the notice of intent, further action will be taken.
Okay, so you want the notice of intent then to be received by
21 days from
30.
the date of the fine, in issuance of the fine.
Okay.
All right. Is anybody uncomfortable with that?
Nope.
Yeah, my only issue, like I would say, it's like I'd be fining them every week until they filed the notice of intent. Then you don't have to worry about 21 days or anything else. But
well, I'd like to worry just
courts can worry about the clerk can worry about the 21 days. We can just say like, hey, you're going to get one every day or every week until you do it. But we can try it this way. We are a magnanimous board, and so we can try it that way. And if it doesn't work, then we can
fine them every day if we have every week if we have to after that.
We can advance to that.
Still open to us.
Yeah, right.
We're not closing ourselves off of anything.
Okay, so
but we're not threatening them per se.
No. No, we're not. It's not a threat. We're just giving you.
We're enforcing the law. That's all.
Right. That's right.
That's right. We're just giving you a piece of paper that is worth $300 to us.
Could someone restate the motion? I'm afraid I got a little confused.
I wonder why.
The motion then is that we issue a $300 fine with a letter that states they must file a notice of intent according to the enforcement order. They must file the notice of intent within 21 days of the date on the ticket.
And this is just for the fill and grading at 82 Harbor.
Yes.
And this is for fill and grading at 82 Harbor Road.
In 86 Harbor, we're ignoring?
Yes.
Well, we're not including that as part of the fine at this point.
What's the violation of 86 Harbor?
Well, there is some dumping and the tree cutting. at
Okay, but
86.
we can't prove that they did either of those, even though we assume they did.
Right. I mean, again, you could send them a ticket for that.
Let them fight it.
There's no proof.
Yeah, and let them
Unfortunately, we
fight
have
it.
nothing to, they can
Yeah.
fight it, but there's no proof.
But if you send them the ticket, maybe they'll clean it up rather than pay for the ticket. You know, what I'm saying is if you send them 86, another.
Yeah, I mean, that's, once you send them the ticket, you pretty much made them pay the $300. I mean, you can, there is a mechanism to waive or to essentially, if they were to sit there and say, oh, now they're serious, can we waive the ticket? I think there's a way the clerk can do that.
But that's
I
only
know
one,
with,
that's only one aspect of the violation. They can't replant all the trees that they topped.
but the point, well, I mean, the whole point behind it is to compel them to do what we want them to do in the first place, which was to file the notice of intent. So I think that's what we're aiming for them to do. That's the $300 is not a significant amount of money compared to the idea of receiving that notice of intent. So that's what we're aiming to do, is to get that notice of intent.
But my point is that we're now not really able to do anything about 86. I mean, 82, I understand we're going to do this fine, but 86, we're out of our hands, even though morally, everything else, they should be cleaning it.
All right, so I'm going to tell you, what is it, 8 years ago, for those of you who were on the board that long ago, was that just Tom?
No.
Were you there too?
I was a rookie then.
For the previous?
Yes.
You were there for the previous tree topping? On that same, it was literally in that same neighborhood, one parcel to the east, I think it was. But that one, we issued a citation. We ended up issuing citations for. Ultimately, $2,400 in fines were issued. It went to court, and the landscaper just ignored it.
Right.
And that's where it sits to this day. So it's very difficult. I mean, this, you've got them, and yeah, I mean, I don't like it, but the long and the short of it is those trees will grow back, and the only satisfaction that I have is that they will grow back even bushier and fuller, which will
make
even more of a problem for the guy to view. So it is what it is. So all right, so we're good with the motion. Okay.
So moved.
So Tom made the motion.
Second.
Ellie seconded.
seconds.
Dawn Marie, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, let me get my list.
You don't have that memorized by now?
Pardon?
You don't have that memorized
Now
by
you
now?
can look at everybody's. Now you can look at everybody's.
Just look at the screen. Yeah.
I know. Oops.
Aye.
Durkin.
Aye.
Higgins.
Aye.
Mulhern.
Aye.
Lawrence.
Aye.
Bishop.
Aye. It's like
Bernstein.
Hollywood Squares.
Aye.
Thank you. Unanimous.
That's right. Rick Bishop, the block, please. All right, moving on to other business. Mass Coastal Railroad 2020 Vegetation Control Plan. I'm sure everybody has read through it. Did anybody see the typographical error on page 37?
Missed that.
No?
I think Tom did.
Tom, did you catch that? No, does anybody have any comments or questions about the vegetation control plan?
I just have to say, I have no idea what we're talking about. I didn't get a copy of it, so I'll just not vote on this.
just so you understand just so for your own edification, the utilities that maintain different rights of way.
Right.
So railroads, Eversource, and the power lines, that sort of thing. Any of the utility rights of way have to. What they do is they do a 5-year plan. Every 5 years, they will come before conservation commissions that in all the jurisdictions that the right of way travels through, where there are, in this case, wetland issues. They have to file what is called a vegetation control plan. They have, it's not an exemption, but you don't typically, unless there's something really flagrant, you wouldn't normally say, oh, you can't do this, or you can't do that. So, but every year they have to update their vegetation control plan and submit it to all the different agencies that are involved. So that's what this is. It's their
Okay.
this year's vegetation control plan, and it's a pretty standard plan in that respect.
So they're spraying glyphosate.
That's right.
They're spraying glyphosate is what they're doing, right?
I mean, that's one of the potential, but again, as long as they're doing it within means, I don't have an issue with them doing this. They're gonna use a licensed applicator, and they're gonna do it according to label, which assumes then no damage. I'd be more concerned about the homeowner who goes to Home Depot and buys the 5-gallon jug of Roundup and stands there in his sandals and on the salt marsh spraying away. So, but anyhow, I digress. That's my Greenheart's. That's
yeah.
That's my issue there. So. Anyhow, any further discussion on that? I don't think we really need to do anything. We don't have to take a vote on any of that, just to answer any questions. We have meeting minutes to look at for February 20th for 2020. Tom, did you get a chance to review those?
Yes, I did, and I'd like to make a motion that the minutes are as written are accepted. It was an excellent job.
Okay, so noted to Kelly did a fine job with that. Their only issue is that we don't have a quorum for the people that actually heard that hearing, that meeting. So we do have to invoke the rule of necessity, which basically says we can't meet a quorum. We're not going to be able to meet a quorum, and therefore we have to basically say those of us who were here, even though it wasn't a quorum, will still vote in the affirmative. So if that's the case, we have the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Ellie seconded. Dawn Marie, can you do our shortened roll call?
A shortened roll call.
So it's only for those of us who were here. So it's me.
Well, I wasn't at that meeting, but if this is something that we need to do, somebody has to second it.
Yeah, no, you can second. There's not an
Okay.
issue with anybody can second. You don't have to be a member of the original quorum, but
okay.
It was me, Tom. Paul, were you at that meeting?
What was the date again?
February 20th?
I think so.
Rick, you were not.
Actually have it here, so I can.
Members present at the meeting were Tom Durkin, Rick Bishop, Phil Johnson, who's not with us, Ellie Lawrence, who attended part of the meeting. Now, can you weigh in, Ellie, on this and approve it because
No,
you were
she
there
can't.
partly? Huh?
She can't because she wasn't here for the entire meeting.
Okay, that's what I
Well,
thought.
no motion could be made until I got there because there wasn't a quorum until I got
Right.
there.
Oh, and you
So there was
stayed-
only a discussion going on before I
Oh,
got
that's
there.
right.
As soon as I
that's right.
got
I
there, there
wasn't
was.
here.
You
Yeah,
were
you
not the
weren't
meeting.
here.
Ellie, you stayed to the end, is that correct?
I didn't stay
No.
to the end, but I stayed for all the motions that needed to be made in the minutes.
Well, the minutes say that you made the motion to
Yep.
adjourn.
Well, I guess I did.
No, so there you go.
So you do vote on this, Ellie.
Okay.
Right. So
So
Tom,
chairperson
Ellie,
says aye.
Rick Bishop,
How about
Aye.
Phil's not here, Ellie Lawrence.
Aye.
So that's the three of us, Ed.
the three of, there you go. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, that's right. It was me, Paul, and Pat who weren't here. All right, so that passes. Staff updates.
I'd like to say that I'd like the record to show an appreciative welcome to David Bernstein. We appreciate the expertise and the commitment he brings to the commission.
Thank you.
Thank
Here,
you,
here.
Tom. That was
Yep.
going to be my next contribution, but you've done it for us. Thank you. Welcome, David. To let everybody know, and David especially, but to let all the other commissioners know, just you should pay attention if you haven't been paying attention to the MACC emails. There are several opportunities that they're converting almost all of their fundamentals for commissioners, for conservation commissioners, over to webinars.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a perfect time to jump on the bandwagon and get involved with the fundamentals. If you haven't completed the fundamentals, I would highly encourage you to do so. If you do it and you get it all done, when you get it done, you actually get a big shout out in the MACC newsletter, and you also get a notification and a shout out at the MACC annual conference in Worcester. So it is something that I think it does help people, especially if you're a beginning conservation commissioner. It helps you tremendously because it sort of focuses you on what you need to do, and it takes a broader approach than what just one commission teaches and does. So it's good that way. I mean, I was told when I first got on the commission many moons ago that, I mean, the first
1970, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't quite that. It wasn't quite that long ago. It was in a different century though, but I was always told that Conservation Commission is probably one of the hardest boards you could ever sit on. It takes a huge amount of time and patience and experience to get really good at it. So one of the things I was told was, like, when you're a new guy, just zip your lip, sit back, watch how things are done, and ask lots and lots and lots of questions of the other commissioner, more experienced commissioners. And then the other thing is that it takes about 3 years to really become an effective commissioner. So think of it as being a long-term commitment, and it's appreciated, but it's hard work.
Yeah, Kelly did send me information on the MACC. I just have to find it in some email because it was before I was elected and accepted by you guys. So I'll
and we
look it
do
up.
have to figure out a way to get you to make you a member of MACC through the town. So I think Dawn Marie, you said you were going to try and figure that out. Yes.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Be in touch with-
She's sitting there saying, like,
I did.
You might as well give it up. He's not gonna. We have no money. We have no inclination to do this. It's like it's just not gonna happen.
Well, we have the fines that are going to start coming in, so we
That's
may
right.
have the money.
That'll pay for David's membership and his first couple of webinars. So, has everybody done the fundamentals?
I've done one, and it was okay. I mean, it lacks a person to person take in and take out, but it's okay.
Yeah,
How long do they
they're not
run?
all as moving as this form of conservation commission. I mean, believe me.
I've done 3 of them since the shutdown here.
Oh, so there you go.
Yeah.
So Pat, you're well on your way. So you've done 3 total?
Mm-hmm. Well, 4.
Pat, how long do they run?
2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
Okay.
about that.
At night. It's pretty good.
It's about my attention span.
Yeah, it depends on the topic too, but
Yeah.
you know, they're usually 2 to 2.5 hours usually. And again, I would highly recommend it. It's like, don't pay for them out of your own pocket. We do have the funds to, or at least last time I checked, we had the funds.
I've been paying out of my pocket.
You've been paying out of your
Uh-oh.
pocket?
I didn't know that the town would help out, so maybe I can get reimbursed. But they
Sure
also
chance.
have
Well-
free lunch ones.
Yeah,
just
the
for
free lunch
lunch.
ones.
Then those are very good.
Yeah, I've done those.
Lunch
Yes.
meeting.
Surprisingly, that's the one that is best attended. So, but and the other thing too is like, I don't know if they still do it, or but they used to have an advanced course as well. Then once you got your fundamentals certificate, they let you go on to an advanced course, but I don't think they do that anymore. But anyhow, it's something to think about it while you're sitting around the house looking for things to do.
Yeah.
That might be a
hasn't
good
happened
thing,
yet.
right?
Yeah.
All right, if there's anything, do we have anything else? Anybody else? Dawn Marie, Kathy, you have anything else from the commission? Everybody doing good through their quarantine?
Oh, yeah. My 15-year-old is just having a ball, and that's just going everywhere.
Hey, it's like it's been fun.
She finally
Well-
hit the wall recently.
She did. Well, that can happen.
Well, I think I've seen more of my husband in the last 6 weeks than I have in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Bragging or complaining?
Yes.
My wife and I were talking about this. It's like, in the 30 years we've been married, I think this is the longest we've ever gone without having any takeout or going out to dinner or breakfast or anything. So.
Oh,
it's
well, I
supposed to
put a
be good
lock
for
on,
us.
I put a lock on the basement door, so sometimes he's allowed up.
No, that works. That's the best way to, you separate the levels that way, right?
That's it.
You should do
All right.
takeout. It's good. They have a nice system at these places for safely going in and picking up and exiting. And so we've been doing takeout. It's been great.
And where's that?
I did it at the Royal 2.
Royal 2?
Yeah, we've done that a
Yeah.
couple times. Great.
We've been doing it too at a couple of different places. I want to keep them in business.
Exactly.
Yeah, we do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the last time we went. We did Szechuan Delight over in Harwich. That was that was literally the day before they said that's it. Everything gets shut down. So anyhow, all right. There is one chat. Let's see. I think that was Mark saying thanks and arrivederci.
And if anybody hears from Kelly, let us know, because
Yeah,
today
we will.
she was
I'm
supposed
sure
to
she
go
will
in.
give us an update when she
Yeah.
gets back. So yeah, hopefully everything is going well with her and Charlotte. So
Charlotte, yeah.
all right. If nothing
I make a
else-
motion that we adjourn at 6:31.
All right.
Wow, Ed, this
Is
is a
there a
record
second
for
there?
you.
Nobody's seconding it?
Yeah. Second.
Okay, so Paul saying it. All right, all those. Well, let's do our roll call. Aye.
Okay, I'll do it face to face. David Bernstein,
Aye.
Tom Durkin,
Aye.
Paul Huggins,
Aye.
Ed Hoops,
Aye.
Ellie Lawrence,
Aye.
Rick Bishop,
Aye.
Pat Mulhern.
Aye.
Okay, so.
All right, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks, if not sooner.
If not sooner.
Kathy and
All right.
Dawn Marie, thank you for helping us tonight.
Yeah, thank you,
Yes.
Kathy, so
Thank
much.
you.
Dawn Marie, thank you for doing all of the
Anything.
drudgery of recording. That's important. All right, anybody else?
Happy to help.
All right.
Good night.
See you, everybody.
everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Night.